Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this generator right here. This one's from Champion. It's an inverter generator and it has 4,000 starting watts if you're using gasoline or 3,600 if you're using propane. So that's sort of the basic overview of what we're looking at here. So why are we talking about generators? Well, I've done generator reviews in the past. They've been relatively popular. As of when I'm filming this right now, we are in the middle of hurricane season. There's 3 hurricanes out in the Atlantic, and about 2 months from now, there's going to be snow and nor'easters and all of that stuff hitting large parts of the country. Those types of things tend to necessitate the need for artificial power, which is what this thing here can give you. And this particular model here is kind of a good all-around model. So for instance, I reviewed their Champion 2,000 watt, little sort of small one in the past, and that one is good if you just want to run like a refrigerator or a freezer or a small air conditioning unit. But if you want more power, like say to power an RV, this one here should do it, provided that you have appliances and stuff made after like 1990. I actually loaned this one out for a week to folks who live 3 houses that way, and they put it in their RV and used it for a week, and it powered everything in there, including air conditioning on 100+ degree days. So you can run a lot on it. Now, if you actually want to see exactly what you can run on it, if you head over to Champion's website, they actually have a calculator, so you can put in all the different wattages of your fridge and whatever appliances that you might want to use, and it'll tell you rather if it's compatible with this particular generator. Another thing I want to cover before we get into the actual details of it is what is an inverter versus a non-inverter. So non-inverter generators, generally speaking, are going to be louder. The power is less clean, meaning that you're going to have larger spikes in terms of power that's coming out. Now, for certain things, like let's just say a freezer, that doesn't matter at all. For other things, let's say a computer, that can totally matter, and your computer can be wiped out if you don't have some sort of way to buffer those highs and lows. Inverter generators do that for you, so you don't have to worry about it. Additionally, inverter generators are quieter. Depends on the actual model, but they say 50% quieter than traditional generators. I believe that from everything I've used. Now, this one's an open frame, so it's a little bit louder than some of the enclosed frame, but obviously you get greater power with it, so that's the advantage there, right? And inverter generators are going to give you better performance in terms of like energy per gallon or those sorts of things. And if you're in a grid down situation where everyone's waiting an hour at a gas station to get gas, that becomes important, right? You want to get your sort of best mile per gallon, if you will, out of your generator. So with all that said, let's get into the actual interface of the generator. For simplicity's sake, we'll work sort of left to right here. So right here we have our choke. Now for gasoline operations, which is what we're going to use in today's demonstration, when you start it, you're going to want to pull it all the way out. And if you're using the propane hookup here, which we'll get to here in just a second, there's a halfway point right there. That's where you would have it to start your generator using propane, but we're going to put it in there now. We do have our starter cable here. One thing to note, this one has been sitting for a month intentionally. We're going to see how it runs like that. Here we have our propane hookup, which we'll show you here. It also comes with your hookup kit. It's pretty simple, quick detach type system. If you want to use it, you just flip this over. That lets this thing come out. That tells the generator that it's going to run on propane, this connection right here. And if you're running on propane, you can't run on gas. If you're running on gas, you can't run on propane. And at that point, just plug it in and hook this up to your propane tank as you normally would. To release it, you're just going to push in and it comes right out. It's got a good seal, no issues with that at all. But again, we're going to be running with gas, so we're going to leave that off. I should also note that the turn off button doesn't work if you're using propane. So here we have our 12-volt hookup. So it actually does come with a USB adapter, ironically enough. This one right here. So if you want to run that, you can. You can also run anything that would work on a 12-volt charging system. It comes with jumper cables as well that work on there. So if you're out by yourself on a job site, let's say, and you left your interior lights on, you need to jump your car, and you don't want to wait an hour for somebody to come out, plug it in, start it up, and you can jump it. So that's cool. We also have our ground cable here. I should note that this generator and most generators are not really grounded in the way that, say, like your house would be grounded. However, this gives you the ability to run a separate ground cable if you want to do so. I've seen folks on the internet actually use the electrical hookups to sort of like jerry-rig a ground as well. There's a ground cable in the back. We'll probably show you that here in a second. But just know that generally speaking, for 99% of people out there, it not being like officially grounded is never going to give you an issue. So I've ran it, and I've ran other generators, never running a ground cable, and I've never had an issue. So there's that. What this is right here is your Paralink. So Champion, one of the cool things they do is they allow users to run their generators in parallel. So you can hook up a separate cable kit in there, just increase your power over that 4,000 watts with a separate generator if you want to do that. We have our resets here in case you blow something. Hasn't happened yet for me. This right here is our 30-watt plug. So like I mentioned, my friends who ran this with their RV, this is what they were using. There's also some higher draw electronics out there that will run this as well. It's of course this 120 volt right there. It has the little RV picture in case you can't read. And then we have our standard plug-in outlets. You can use all of these at the same time. Again, it's just really going to depend on your draw. One thing I noticed I skipped over here was our eco mode. So eco mode, what that's going to do is it's going to drop the RPMs down on the engine to make it quieter, just to regulate the electricity that's being put out, give you a little bit better, longer runtime rather, I should say. However, I should note that it is wired so that if your draw is more than what the eco mode can provide, it will automatically override itself. So it's kind of cool there. It's self-adjusting in that regard. Here's the back of the generator. This is the ground cable that I mentioned earlier, sort of like grounding it internally. We do have an air filter here, which is a quick detach. You can just pop this off, pull your air filter out. I'm not going to do it here on camera, and then put it back in. I haven't seen it gunk up or anything like that, and I don't know the exact amount of hours on it because I didn't run it the entire time, but several hundred hours of use at this point, and it's still good to go there. No issues at all in terms of the air filter. Those of you who follow me on Instagram, Facebook, elsewhere may have seen my video where I basically went over the initial setup of this. I probably rolled that into the intro here as well, but really all you're gonna do is add a little bit of fuel. It takes any standard gasoline, so you don't need special gasoline. That said, if you're using gasoline and you want to have it stored, if you will, for a while, definitely recommend you get the non-ethanol version, get just the straight gasoline. It stores much better over the long term. That said, one cool thing about propane is you don't have to worry about that at all, because you can just have a propane tank sitting there forever and it'll still work. So that's pretty darn cool. All right, so if you actually want to start this, again, using gasoline, we're gonna have our propane closed, pull our choke out full, have the button here on, and not have eco mode on. So if it doesn't start right up, which to date it's started up first pull every time, but again, it's been sitting for a month. If it doesn't start right up, what you're doing there when you pull the cord is just priming the engine, so it's not really a bad thing if it doesn't start right up, but so we'll go ahead and give it a go. All right, it didn't start right up. Again, it's been sitting for a month. Shaking everything on the table. I'm sure it's hard to tell in terms of noise output with my microphone here, but what I like to do here is just let it run full throttle for a minute or so, let everything cycle through, and it's building up energy at this point as well. And then what we can do here is drop it down to eco mode, and you can see it slows it down a good bit. If you do that too early though, it could cause a stall. Again, I haven't had that happen yet, but it's possible, so there is that. We'll let it build up a little bit of power here, come back and hook some stuff up. We let it run for a couple minutes just to warm up, and basically we're just going to test the load capability of it. So we have here a fan and a heater, and for folks that don't know, anything that's really high draw, like heaters, coffee makers, etc., sometimes can be hard for generators that can power lots of things, but that initial really high draw that heaters and coffee makers, etc., water boilers make can choke out a lot of generators. So we'll see if this one here can handle a heater on eco mode. If it overrides it, honestly, I have no idea. I've not used this heater with this generator yet, so it should start right up without a choke because it's relatively warm, but we'll see. Good on, eco mode off. All right, so obviously it's on eco mode now. All right, so right now it's on oscillation fan low heat. So we'll turn the heat up here and turn the fan high, low high. And actually on eco mode, that's powering it. I honestly didn't think it would. Oh, nope, it's overriding it. Just started to override it there because of that high heat. Turn it back down. It goes back into eco mode. So that's pretty cool that it can do that. Yeah, it overrides it. Interesting. So it passed that test, and I was expecting it not to run it in eco mode. It didn't on high. It definitely had to bump up the power because again, those are really high draw items. But hey, if you're in a blizzard, you got a small space heater, you need to heat your room up, it will do it, and it will do it just fine. One thing I should also mention for folks that are new to generators is that when you start them up and when you power them down, you want all the appliances plugged in or anything like that unplugged. So unplug those first, then shut it down. Same thing when starting it up. Don't have any draw on there. It's just not designed that way. And then plug them in after you start it up. I've got just a few things to point out here before we close the video out. Number one, the gas tank up top is 2.9 gallons. And again, it's pretty darn efficient in terms of energy. So you're gonna get good runtime out of it. Now, when it starts to get low, it'll start to engine will start to be sluggish, and you can actually hear it when it's getting low. Like when it gets like below a quarter of a gallon in there, it will let you know. So it gives you a little bit of advanced warning there. This one here has the wheel kit on it. They make it with and without, and if you get it without, you can add the wheel kit. So that's how I got it. When I got it in, did not have the wheel kit, then I ordered the wheel kit, threw it on there, and it just really depends what you want. So with it full of fuel, it's like 90 pounds, so it's not lightweight to carry around. Like, I mean, I can carry it, I'm relatively healthy, I guess. But like, for instance, my wife, there's no way she could carry it. So having that wheel kit definitely is good for that. Additionally, one thing I want to point out is that you want to have space between your generator and your house. Again, for folks who are new here, you don't ever want to use these indoors, and creating, kind of moving it away from your house, both for noise and just for safety, because it does get hot, obviously, with the exhaust coming out of it. So the wheel kit does help with that. If you're, on a mobile job site and you're running power tools on this, which you absolutely can do just fine. Again, having the ability to move it is nice without having to pick up a 90-pound brick. So there is that. Price point on these is good for what you're talking about in terms of competitive offerings that are inverter generators that give you 4,000 starting watts. It's going to come in, generally speaking, under $700. So for most people out there, that is an affordable item, and why would you want a generator? Again, any type of grid down scenario, these days, people are very dependent on like medical devices that require power just for sustaining basic life. If you want to maintain communications, charge your cell phones, computers, Wi-Fi, all of that stuff, I've done all that. It's been just fine. This powered my fridge for like 2 days just to see if it could do it. It did it. Additionally, you guys saw like the small space heaters, and RVs powers all of that. And just being without power for a long time really sucks. This is a model that, again, is going to power a lot of things in your house. Like just talking about refrigerators, for example. Think about all the food in your fridge. If that goes bad, how much that would cost. You're getting, some of your money back just on the first use. So there certainly is that. This one here is not so large that most people are going to want to hardwire it to your house. I suppose you could, but you just would have to be very careful about what you actually are running within your home. If you're going to do that, I do recommend something a little bit bigger. But you can run a ton of stuff on it, like I said, at the same time, and it does do the job pretty darn well. If you guys have any questions about this generator, anything like that, you can always post them down below in the comments section. However, the best place to reach me is over at my Facebook page. I do see all the messages over there, whereas YouTube Full 30 elsewhere, I don't always see them. And I suppose I'll close it out with, this is a guns and gear channel. We tend to be gun focused, but I'm also survival and realism focused. And that's really where this sort of comes in if you want to be prepared. So that way you're not sitting in the dark. If you're a gun guy with your guns by yourself, this thing is something I definitely would look into. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're new here and you aren't subscribed, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.